Hello and welcome to Rock and Roll on Action, where we take a random year and we discuss one film and one album from that year. I'm JJ, I make films and I love music.
And I'm Sean, I make music and I love films.
And I'm George.
What the hell? Who's that? Hey, look! It's our friend George. He's from the film Rapture, Nimbus Reborn.
Yeah. You ever seen it, that film?
No.
Well, let me tell you, it's bloody great.
But there's a link in the description.
There's a link in the description. Hello, George. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, JJ and Sean. Thank you very much for having me on the show.
I just want to say thank you because, George, God bless you. You're not only a sweet soul, a good friend, and a terrific movie star, but you're also, I think, our most devoted listener. So
Yeah.
that means a lot. Thank you.
He's listened to every single podcast we've done.
That's crazy.
That's true.
No one should have done that.
Yeah.
But we're very glad that someone has. Also, heads up, we're holding our microphones in this episode because I completely forgot to bring the microphones, which turns out are quite important for a podcast.
No, I don't think so.
So if you're listening to the audio on this and you can't tell that we're holding our microphones and the audio sounds weird, I don't know, maybe it sounds better, maybe it sounds the same. I don't know. Okay, so we've got George on the show this week because we were thrown a bit of a curveball. Well, it's not really a curveball. I mean, it's a random year generator that we use to choose what year we're going to talk about. But it gave us 2022.
That was the first year that we've done that I was actually alive in.
Yeah, that's true.
In fact, it was the year I was born, 2022.
Yeah, that's true. I remember.
Yeah, I remember it.
And
too.
we threw you immediately from the cradle into being shot in
In the
Rapture.
movie, yeah.
2022 was the year that we shot our film Rapture, Nimbus Reborn with Mr. George Hobart in the leading role.
It was a great year.
Man, it's a bit of an awkward one because it's too recent to know what are classics that have withstood the test of time, but it's also too far away to choose something that anyone's going to click on and care about. So.
Yeah, true. But I do think that the film we've chosen will transcend the test of time.
I kind of agree.
Yeah.
But spoilers. Our film is, this week, The Banshees of Inisherin, a wonderful Irish film. And with regards to our album, 2022 seemed like a pretty easy decision because, well, 2022 is the year that one of my favorite albums of the past 20 years came out, Pratfall by Jackie Cohen. It's also the year that the first professional album cover came out that I designed for Jamie Webster's Moments, you know.
No kidding.
But, but you didn't go for either of those. You went with...
Well, it was my choice, you see, and you said, oh, there's loads of all of these possible albums we could do, and I said, no, it's my choice. We're doing Ants From Up There by Bike Club, Two Bicycle Club, what's it called? Black Country New Road.
And who bloody loves Black Country New Road that we know?
Me.
Who's that? No, we're kidding. We introduced him earlier, actually.
So I think without further ado, let's jump straight into the album and we'll get round to the film later. Oh, and by the way, guys, if you stick around to the end of this, we're going to tell you our next year at the end of this episode, which we don't usually do, but I think it's going to be a new thing. All right, Sean, I want you to tell me why you picked this album.
It was just a big album. I remember when it came out. In fact, this is the only album I remember coming out. It was big. I don't know. I mean, their first one had been quite popular.
Yep.
The first album was a bit less mainstream, you could say. I don't really remember. I haven't listened to it since
The first album was less mainstream.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, have you not heard it?
I've heard a few tracks because I filmed an interview with Black Country New Road in 2020.
Oh, wow.
March 2020, it was like one of the last weekends before we went into lockdown, and we were stuck in a tiny little underground basement that was about 8 foot by 8 foot.
Had they done their first album at that point? Had they
I
released
think so.
it?
I don't know if they'd released it. But
No.
George, when did they release their first album?
I think 21, 22.
21 was their first album.
Wow, so they pushed this out a year after their first album.
Yeah. Their first album's quite zany. Do you listen to it, George?
I like a fair few of the tracks on it a lot. Like, I discovered them through Opus, but at some points, yeah, it gets quite unlistenable, I would say. I think this is a much better entry in their discography.
George, what are your overall feelings on this album as, not just as a sophomore effort, but just as an album in general?
Well, I have brought with me today my copy of the deluxe record. Yeah, I absolutely love this album. Some of the tracks I'm not so keen on, but I think the tracks that are wonderful, truly are some of my favorite pieces of music ever written. It has a lot of emotional meaning to me personally, but I think even without that, just the first time I listened to it, it blew me away. It's unlike anything else I've heard since, really.
You know, when I first heard it, actually, I had this memory, because I haven't listened to it since 2022. I remember the singer, Isaac Wood. I remembered him being way more over the top. Maybe he is in the first album, I don't know. But he's listenable. Is that rude? He's listenable on this album, you know. He's not that bad. And I do like his lyrics a lot. Poetic stuff, you know.
I think that musically it's incredibly adventurous. I think that production-wise it's really interesting. It's really exciting and different to hear such a diverse sonic palette on an album like this. I think everything about it is really exciting. And I hate it. I really, really struggled with this album. I just don't get it. Like, you know, when reviewers are like, oh, you know, people will say I just didn't get it, and it's not true, I just don't think it's good. No, I think it's great. I just don't get it. I really don't get it. Like, I was dreading listening to it every time I had to put it on. I usually listen to an album for this podcast like a dozen times, and I couldn't manage more than 3 with this album. I mean, part of that is because it's so long. But yeah. Man alive. I mean, it's dreary and dark and like it's all over the place and it's...
I knew you were going to hate this one. I knew you've hated it in the past and I knew you'd continue to hate it.
Hate is a strong word. I don't hate it. I just don't feel anything for it.
You don't even like Chaos Space Marine?
That's a decent one.
What about the place they inserted the blade?
Yeah, I think the place they inserted the blade and the Space Marine, they're the best songs for me.
And Basketball Shoes.
I don't like that.
But it gets really exciting and builds up over time.
Yeah, it's good. It's exciting when it goes exciting, but it doesn't actually make me feel anything. I don't know. Like it feels like an album that is designed, and I can imagine someone listening to this and just feeling an immense sense of catharsis and it being like a real emotional outlet. And I feel like it was that for them recording it. And I respect it, but I just don't care. I just do not care.
I agree.
Anything.
And I think anyone who likes this album is an idiot. Right, George? I'm kidding.
I do agree that it's a Marmite album. It really resonated with me. I think it is beautiful lyrically and musically. I actually don't really like Chaos Space Marine. I know Basketball Shoes, without fail, every single time I listen to it will make me cry.
I don't know. I feel like obviously I'm missing something, or maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm just not emotionally tuned in to what you need to be emotionally tuned into to enjoy this. But I just
don't understand, because to me it's kind of a similar vibe to Bob Dylan, as in it's about appreciating the lyrics, and it's about...
I could barely make out the lyrics.
Well, look at them then. Read them.
Yeah, I did. I don't know. But what is the bread song? This is a really stupid complaint.
That one's the most depressing song to me. It's just like the most quiet and laid back and kind of not exciting.
We're going to disagree on a lot of things.
Yeah.
This is going to be a really stupid complaint. You're going to both hate me for this.
I already do.
But I just don't like in the bread song when he says the Wi-Fi in your apartment. I don't know what it is. It's just something I find it hard to take seriously, a song that mentions Wi-Fi. I know
Billie Eilish.
Yeah, what is their obsession with Billie Eilish? Can you answer this? Because I looked this up and I cannot find it. I know that they do a cover of Happier Than Ever, which makes sense. I bet that's really good. I bet they do a really good cover of that because that makes sense for them. But why does Billie Eilish get name dropped 5 times on this album?
Literally no clue.
It's a concept album about Billie Eilish. That's what you have to realize.
Do you want my story of how I understand this album?
Of course I do. That's exactly what I want. George, I want to come away from recording this podcast to get in my car and want to put on this album. Because as it stands, I never want to listen to this album again. And I did enjoy it a little bit more each time I listened to it. All right? Oh. So I will give you that, but I don't know if that's just Stockholm Syndrome.
So, okay. My understanding of the album is basically these first 2 are Isaac sharing his emotions. The other band, they are doing a lot of very cool stuff musically, but in terms of actual content of the themes and the lyrics, they take a backseat. There are a few points where they come slightly more center stage, but it is basically Isaac's story. And the first album is him sharing some of his anxieties and insecurities. To some extent, people find them a bit funny, of there's been parodies of them, but it's still relatively distant. Whereas this one, I think he really does bare his soul. It's very much a story of a bad relationship, breakup, heartbreak, and loss and grief in there as well. So once you put it through this lens of realizing, oh, this was a really bad relationship that this guy has had with this person who is clearly very distant and very hard to receive love back from. And then as we go through the album, you see these terrible cracks and eventually a breakup. And then Basketball Shoes is the recapitulation of all of this together. It brings everything back. I think the Concord, the symbol that keeps reappearing, Concord is this person in the relationship. Based on the lyrics, I think it was his girlfriend. And I think Concord symbolizes something perceived as high above and unreachable, soaring above what he could ever be. There's a few motifs like that reappear, and I think are used very well. But that's the basic idea of it. It's a terrible relationship where clearly he's not getting the love he wants back and the kind of loss that one experiences in a breakup.
So you think it's about a relationship breakup? Basketball Shoes ends on, your generous loan to me, your crippling interest. Which, to me, given that he left the band 4 days before this album released, right? They obviously have never reached a place of big spotlight, but relative spotlight. I didn't know if it was more about that relationship.
Definitely there are aspects of it that are about his relationship with the public or their kind of fame. The album is self-explanatory as to why he left the band. He had a message he put out on Instagram when he left the band. It was something along the lines of, he has the kind of sadness that makes it hard to sing while playing guitar at the same time. I think that really shows. I asked you guys beforehand to go and watch the live recording of Basketball Shoes, because at the end of that, you really see him putting his all into the singing and the playing, and basically has a breakdown at the end of it. And I think that kind of summarizes everything in the album very well, of both this heartbreak, difficulty with fame, and the spotlight. And yeah, I think that really comes through, particularly there.
Yeah, and we'll link below the video that you're talking about where Isaac has that breakdown. And I will say, I've seen Black Country New Road live. When I filmed them, they were playing a gig later that night, and so I popped in to see what they were all about. And it was super exciting. Like, it was really electric. There was an incredible atmosphere in there, and it really felt like a thing. And I think for me, it is a live experience, what they're about. I don't know that for me it translates to the record, and I appreciate the effort. This album was all recorded live. I presume not the vocals.
It sounds live. I mean, they even had their live engineer engineer the album, and he'd never done an album before. He'd only done their live performances. There's a very limited amount of overdubbing. Well, I think there's some double tracking. There might be some backing vocals or something overdub. I don't know, maybe they did them live.
The way that they would develop these songs is just to play them over and over and just add bits and tweak them and stuff, while they were just playing it different live, right? Like, it was jazz, and then this is just the incarnations they ended up on. I wonder if they would have continued to develop, because am I right in thinking they still have never played any of these songs live because Isaac left and they refused to play anything that Isaac played on live?
Before the album, but since he left, none of them have been performed again, to my knowledge.
That's dumb.
Yeah, but who's gonna sing them? You?
Yeah, I'll do it. I don't care. I could do it.
We're gonna piss off some fans here tonight. Sorry, guys. I don't agree with him, okay?
I just think, to me, is similar to that Arctic Monkeys album, Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, where to me it just kind of sounded like the bits of Bowie I don't like that much and the bits of Pink Floyd I don't like that much kind of smushed together in one.
Some of the songs sound like 5 years.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one.
I don't know, man. But I would just rather put on Bowie. I would rather put on Pink Floyd. Yeah. When I listen to this, it's just like, I'd rather put on Morphine. I'd rather put on Suicide or Bowie. I mean, like, there's bits of this that sound like Bowie. There's bits of this that sound like
Can you say Unalive, please?
What? Oh.
We'll get in trouble if you say Suicide.
You know, there's good stuff. You know, his vocals are a bit Nick Cave. They're a bit Tom Waits. You know, like, it's interesting. Like, it's cool. But for me, it never surpasses just being a vibe. And not all albums, not all songs are meant to be pop sing-alongs. And, like, obviously this has a place, but it's kind of like the Hans Zimmer versus John Williams thing, right? It's like, do you want a hummable tune, a theme that's gonna stay with you and you're gonna remember through your day, or do you want something that's just gonna lift the emotion of the scene that you're in, you know? And Hans Zimmer is great at just creating something that really pushes a scene to its limit and the emotion of that scene, and John Williams will create something that you'll remember for the rest of your life.
But not every album it has to be
exactly.
About
that's what
songs,
I'm saying.
Like songs you could play on the piano or whatever.
Yeah. I'm saying that, I get that, but I am a John Williams guy, I would rather have that.
I'm a Hans Zimmer guy.
Yeah, see, I knew it. I can tell from this album.
But you're gonna miss out on so much good music if you only listen to John Williams stuff. You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah. And I would say that I probably like my fair share of the Hans Zimmer stuff. Mm-hmm. But just I feel like it's something maybe that you just need to come to on your own, and it just needs to hit you at the right moment. And maybe just listening to it for a podcast to talk about it just.
I also agree that every song grew on me every time I listened to them. Yeah. I think the place that they inserted the blade, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
The place where he inserted the blade.
That one's the most accessible. It's got a very like poppy chord sequence and hits immediately. The other ones I think had to grow on me a bit, but they all did every time I listened to them.
No, yeah, and definitely the first time I listened to this was on a drive. I put it on, and then I ended just before I parked at the shops on the place where he inserted the blade, and I was like, oh, okay, all right, it's picking up, this is good. Actually, I thought that was the end of the album. I was like, that's a really good album closer. I was like, you know what, that's really good. That was like the first song that I'd actually enjoyed off the album. I was like, and now it's done. I got in the car, I was like, oh, I've got 2 more songs to go. Oh, well, I've got a 25-minute drive. I'll be able to put on something else that I'll enjoy. I'll just listen to these 2. And then they took up the whole bloody drive. They're so long, man.
But they're good, right? What's the one after Insert the Blade?
Well, let's do the track list quickly.
Okay. Track list moment.
So, as we go track by track, side A is Intro, Chaos Space Marine, Concord, and Bread Song. Then we move on to side B, Goodwill Hunting, Haldern, Mark's Theme. Side C is The Place Where He Inserted the Blade, and Snow Globes. And finally, rightly so, side D is just Basketball Shoes.
I'm just going to say the best track on the album is obviously Intro. We all know this. Everyone's been saying it. It's got this great succinctness.
Yeah.
I really like the lyricism.
Yeah, or lack of.
Yeah. And I love the sounds.
Yeah.
Do you not like the instrumental bits, or do you prefer when he's not singing?
I don't have an issue with his voice at all. I think he's got a very charismatic voice. As I say, none of it is really anything that I can put into logical sense. I like a lot of stuff that sounds like this, that is along these vibes. It's just I would rather listen to all of that than this, and it just didn't emotionally connect with me in any way. I just don't care. To me, it was like Dunkirk and what's that there film? Tenet.
Oh, don't shit on Tenet. Come on.
I will. Because Dunkirk, as you both know, because we went to see it at the cinema, all 3 of us, I hated, But I like it more in retrospect because at least it made me feel something. At the time, I hated it. Tenet, I just sat there for 2.5 hours and felt nothing for 2.5 hours and left the cinema feeling nothing, right? And I've come to really detest that film.
Because you don't know what it's like to live backwards. Some of us know. Some of us, that hits.
Everyone watches Stuart A Life Backwards. It's a better backwards film.
Anyway.
Sorry, George, what were you saying?
Just that you were wrong.
What is your favourite track on the album, George?
Well, my favourite track is by far Basketball Shoes. As I said, will make me cry every time. I remember tuning in to see when they were doing the premiere of the live show on their YouTube channel, doing laundry while it was going on. But as I was watching, it got to that at the end of the performance, and I just remember hearing that and thinking, okay, this is something special. And then I went to listen to the album in full, and thought it was wonderful. So Basketball Shoes is my number 1 favourite. Yes, it's 13 minutes, but I think the build-up is just fully warranted.
Is it true that Basketball Shoes is about Charlie XCX?
That's what he says. I feel no, but...
In what way would it be about Charlie XCX?
When it's like, Charlie, my bed's wet.
Oh, yeah.
It's about Charlie XCX.
Because he's sweating over her, or...
Oh, yeah.
Or were they an item?
No,
Oh.
I don't think.
It's apparently about a wet dream he had about Charlie XCX, which kind of makes the song a lot less emotionally powerful if it is about that. So I choose to not interpret it like that.
Yeah, I thought this is a really nice song, but then when I realized what it was about, I was like, that's just funny now. That kind of ruins the impact.
For me, that doesn't justify being longer than Desolation Row.
But it goes so fast. Every time I listened to this song, I was like, oh, it's done. I mean, it was the same with every song on this album. I just thought they all went by really quick.
But is that just because they all do so much?
But it's like prog. That's how I felt about this album. It's just them like playing around, having fun.
But I'm not a massive prog fan.
Neither am I, but this is better than prog, in my opinion.
Whoa.
Well, okay, when I say prog, I'm talking about, when they're like, and the gnome was grey and the...
Yeah, you're talking about Rush.
yeah.
I would rather listen to Rush than this, like every day of the week.
They're a live band, clearly.
George, have you seen them live?
I have seen them live. So I saw them at the album after this, which was live at Bush Hall, which they did as a live album. They did it across 3 shows at Bush Hall. I think it's a really beautiful album, and it means that because he's not there to sing, you get to hear each of them, or some of them have a chance to sing. And yeah, seeing them play some of the songs together, like, there's parts of this album where you really get it, but yeah, in the live album, where you get to see them kind of working fully in unison is a really magical thing.
George, have you any sort of, I don't know, here's your moment in front of an audience of probably 10. To, if we're lucky, if this is a good one, to let the world know all of your thoughts and feelings on this album. Just let it all loose. It doesn't matter if it's completely sporadic and whatever. Just tell us George Hobart on Ants from Up There.
This, I know that if it had come to me in a different time of my life, would not have meant so much. But I happened to have just started a nice new relationship, and this was a budding part of that. We both loved this music, and I think that really put a lot of emotion into it. And then when we eventually broke up, this was the perfect thing to go to, because it deals with exactly these kinds of things. There's one thing I really like about these lyrics, and I think it really resonates, of when you do end up breaking up a relationship, there's a lot of loss in there, and to some extent there's some grief, not of a person having actually died. There's a part of that person that you loved that you will never see again. And you have all of this leftover knowledge and these feelings that you don't really know what to do with. You know how they like their tea and what kind of things make them smile and what their favorite color is. And if you continue being friends after that or anything, you still have this knowledge, you just don't know what to do with it. So you lose a part of them that you're never going to see again, but you also lose a part of yourself that doesn't exist other than with that person. It's a double loss in that sense, and I think that's really represented well in this album. 2 of my favorite lines from this both come in the place where he inserted the blade, which I think really exemplifies this idea of a distant relationship with this person, Concord, who he sees as soaring above him. Then the place where he inserted the blade is post-breakup, and these 2 lines, one in the second verse and another one, the final line of the song. So first one is the tug that's between us, that long string. And it's this idea of when you're in a long-distance relationship, this tug that's between you, and you feel the other person at the end of it. But then the final line of the song is, show me where to tie the other end of this chain, of what do you do when that person is gone, but you still have all of this connection, you still have all of this feeling for them. It's beautiful. But I think that really summarizes all of his feelings in this album, of not only what do you do when you're in this relationship that's distant and you're not getting the love you want, but also after it's gone, you still have this part of you that you can't get rid of, and it's hard to lose. And then that all comes together in Basketball Shoes. The ending, I know we said it's about Charlie XCX perhaps, but I think if you interpret it not about Charlie XCX, but about this person that you've lost, and remembering the times and then dreaming of still being with them and waking up with them and being in bed with them, it's, just the music itself is utterly beautiful. I know his voice is, I originally found it very annoying, but I think it really works. And when it does crack, it's at those moments where you really need it. It's at those moments where you can feel his emotion coming through.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you say. I mean, I don't know if I'll stay listening to it over and over again, but I do really enjoy it. I know it was considered by a lot of people one of the best albums of the year. I haven't listened to that many albums from 2022, so I don't know if it is, but it is one of the best ones I heard from that year.
I think for me, it's Pratfall by Jackie Cohen. That's the best album of that year. But yeah, no, I mean, look, this clearly is a great album. And it clearly does have an emotional impact on people, and that's what I want art to do. And at the end of the day, like, if someone came to us with this kind of music that sounded exactly like this, and they said, we want help from Wired Weird to make this album a reality and to push it out, I'd be super excited about it. I know that if I heard all of these songs exactly the same way as they are, I would be like, yeah, I want to help push this out into the world. Because I do think that it's exciting. I do think that it's a good thing. It's just that for me personally, maybe I just wasn't in that place when I was listening to it. I wasn't listening to it for the right reasons. I did have a slight apprehension about, before going into it, and that probably coloured my first listening of it. But I'm not sure how to take from it what others take from it. And I want to, but I just don't.
We'll just give it some more time, I think.
In time, you will find these things take up space inside your mind.
I don't know, I think I'm going to stick with Morphine. Have you heard Cure for Pain by Morphine?
I've heard Sucker for Pain by the Suicide Squad.
I don't know what that is.
From the film Suicide Squad.
Okay, I've talked enough about Basketball Shoes, but there's like 5 parts to it. The first part is like 3 minutes, no lyrics, just building up each of the instruments coming in, and I think that's beautiful. Part 2 is this little cute melody that I like that comes back in part 4. Don't know what part 3 is doing, that's just fun. But part 4 is just part 2 again, but this time the choir comes in, and every time I hear that melody, to me, it sounds like a forbidden melody given to us by the gods. It was not meant for us mortals, and it has come down. One of them heard it, and they wrote it down, and they played it. And every time I hear it, I get chills. It just, if anyone goes out there and listens to it and feels the same way, I'm glad that we have heard this angelic sound from above. And then the final part is when all of it comes together at the end of the album. What more could you want?
But come on, man, it's no Shine On You Crazy Diamond.
It's better than Shine On You Crazy Diamond.
Oh, fight and talk, man.
But anyway, let's wrap this up because I'm getting tired.
Yeah, we should. Let's move on to the movie. George, you have any final thoughts you want to share?
I truly love this album, and I hope one day it grows on you, JJ. And Sean, I hope you continue to love it forevermore as well. It's been lovely chatting about it. I don't usually get to spew all of my thoughts like this. So thank you very much for having me, and I will be hopefully joining someday soon to support Wired Weird once again.
We'll have you on properly, George, and if we ever get 2024, we'll talk about Rapture.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on, George. We love you very much, and it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
So let's talk about the movie. We're going to talk about Banshees of Inisherin. George, good movie?
Haven't seen it, but I will be watching it, ready to listen to the podcast next week.
That's what we like to hear, George. Thank you very much. Keep being a fan.
And that goes for you, too. Man, holding this microphone really changes the dynamic.
Do you like it or do you dislike it?
I think I dislike it.
Yeah.
It feels too formal. I feel like I'm on the BBC News.
I feel like yeah.
So let's talk about Banshees of Inisherin.
This is an Irish film by the late great. Oh, is he alive?
Nah, he's doing well.
Martin
McDonagh. So yeah, this is directed by Martin McDonagh, who came from the world of theatre first. And I think you can tell with his scripts, this is such a scripty film.
Yeah.
As all of his films are. He previously did In Bruges, 7 Psychopaths, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. So he's one of these directors that came from comedy and has moved into drama. And there's a bit of both in this. But overall, it feels like more of a dramatic piece. Even though the stakes that we're dealing with in this film are kind of ridiculous. It's a little folk-tale-y, it's a little fairy-tale-y, it's a little sort of Rumpelstiltskin, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only comedy is in kind of the absurdity of the situation rather than having actual jokes, really. Yeah. I remember when I first heard about this film, I saw it, I think, at Christmas that year, I think on Disney Plus. I told my mum, oh, let's watch this. It's a comedy. And we watched it and we were like, this is quite depressing, actually. So
this was a massive success when it came out. It was nominated for 9 Oscars.
Was it a box office success? It was, actually. I did check that. Got, a sizable 5 times its budget, something like that.
That's pretty damn good.
I think so. Fact
Most
check
Marvel
me.
films don't make 5 times their budget.
Yeah, but they're expensive, you know.
Yeah, for sure. But Steven Stills, it's better.
Yeah, I mean we've got who's the main character? Bradley Cooper. What's his name?
Colin Farrell.
That's it. He's probably expensive, you know.
Yeah, but equally, I mean, Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson had worked together already on In Bruges with Martin McDonagh.
Yeah.
And Martin McDonagh said that he'd wanted to get them back together basically since 2008,
Yeah.
since In Bruges. This was 14 years later, and they were reunited, and it was massively exciting. Like, I remember being super excited.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my God, it's Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell together with Martin McDonagh. And I love Martin McDonagh. Like, let me just say, I love all of his films. People slag off Seven Psychopaths. I think it's a good bit of fun. Three Billboards is obviously monumental, and this is brilliant.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this even more on a second watch, actually, I gotta say. But
Yeah.
I also love his theatre. I think Pillow Man is...
You've seen him in theatre? You've seen his shows?
No, but I've read him.
You're like an intellectual.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wanted to see Pillow Man when they did it with Lily Allen recently, but all of the reviews were so bad that I just didn't want to waste what little money I have.
Yeah. And it is little.
It is.
I didn't realize actually until after I'd seen it that he did Three Billboards. I'd somehow missed
really?
that. Yeah. Because, I mean, it's set in America. And I
Can you
thought,
imagine such a thing?
this is like a classic Irish tale, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's got that folktale vibe.
Tell us
to it.
about the plot.
The basic plot of the film is Brendan Gleeson plays Colm and Colin Farrell plays Podrick, and they spend every day, they go down to the pub at 2 p.m, drink the afternoon away and chat inane shite, you know?
Mm-hmm.
The movie starts on the day that Colm, Brendan Gleeson, decides that this isn't enough for him anymore, and he wants Colin Farrell's Podrick to just stay away from him,
Yeah.
and not talk to him anymore. Obviously, Colin Farrell is unhappy about this.
Mhm.
Podrick is a little taken aback because at first, Colm doesn't really give much of a reason why, and it turns out that it's just that he wants to do more with his time. He
says, I just don't like you anymore.
he says, I
what he
just don't
says.
like you anymore.
Which is really sums it up, to be honest.
It does. And Podrick calls him some fool of a moody school child. He's like,
Yeah.
what are you on about? Like, we're mates and we spend every day together. And on one side, you have Colin Farrell, Podrick, who's obsessed with just the idea of just being nice, and he's just happy. Like, he just doesn't care. It's just, life is good enough. They live on this tiny little island. Everyone knows each other. News spreads quicker than light travels. And it's just the same existence every day. And that's enough for him. And for Colm, it's not. And also, interestingly, for Podrick's sister, it's not. And I think we'll come back to talking about her more. But after some heated arguments about this, Colm ends up saying, if you talk to me, Podrick, anymore, every time you talk to me, I'm going to chop off one of my fingers with my garden shears. And that's where the sort of Rumpelstiltskin, folktale-y vibe of it comes in. What's more is that he also chooses, he says, it's going to be from my left hand, my fiddle hand. Colm is a fiddler. The musical kind, not the prisonable kind. And frankly, that is just ridiculous. Everyone would have taken him seriously if you chop off any of your fingers, you're being taken seriously. You could have done your right hand and been able to play the fiddle. Because the reason that he wants more time is to be able to write music, is to be able to do stuff. And it's this ultimate sort of cutting off your nose to spite your face concept.
But
right?
this is the thing. I think he says that he aspires for greater things than hanging out with Podrick. But I think the real answer is he's just depressed. I mean, he even says he's just entertaining himself while staving off the inevitable, doesn't he? So it's like he's suddenly woken up.
Yeah.
And he's not happy. That's why, I mean, spoilers. Do we do spoilers here in this
We do
program?
spoilers here on this program.
That's why, after a series of events, Podrick then burns down his house. And he doesn't care. He even sits in his house while it's burning down.
Yep.
He has no reason to live.
Yeah, but it's also interesting, I think, that to go briefly back to talking about Podrick's sister, who's played by Kerry Condon.
Who's been in a lot of things recently. She was in F1 and she was in Train Dreams, which were both Oscar nominated
Wow.
last year.
And you saw Train Dreams?
Saw both of those films.
Yeah,
They're
they
great.
both good?
Yeah. And she was great in both of them.
Great. She's fantastic in this.
And she's great in Better Call Saul as well.
But yeah, she is kind of who I think Colm imagines himself to be. She's genuinely intellectual and she's genuinely locked in and feels the claustrophobia of this island. Whereas he instead chooses to chop off his fingers and refuse to talk to his best friend. He thinks of all of that before just leaving the island. You know? She leaves the island. She's like, I can do better, I can be bigger, I want bigger. He doesn't actually, I don't think, want bigger. And you know that he doesn't just dislike Podrick. There's so many moments of tenderness between them and he clearly cares about him so much. You know, there's that beautiful scene where Podrick is punched in the face by the copper who plays Barry Keoghan,
isn't it?
Coffin. Plays his dad, who is abusive and beats him every night. He punches Podrick in the face and then Colm comes and helps him up onto his cart and helps him on his way, sort of thing. And the whole time Podrick is just crying. And I gotta say, both of the central performances are marvellous. But I think Colin Farrell has come back round in the public opinion to being respected. But there was definitely a period of time where people just sort of slagged him off and didn't seem to take him seriously as an actor. And I've always thought that's ridiculous. I think his performance in Bruges and his performance in this are enough to put him up there with the greatest. I think he's absolutely fantastic. How much he can say with a single look is just almost unequaled.
And what about the Penguin? Have you seen that? It's crazy how he makes his face look like that. I don't know how he did it.
That's all just
he just
acting.
contorts it in some crazy ways. It's a God-given gift. Also, I want to highlight Barry Keoghan.
This is the best he's been so far.
I'd forgotten because I think this was one of the first films I saw him in, and it took me seeing him in other things and coming back and going, "Oh, that's great." Because I thought that was just what he was like. I thought it was just a guy they found that just was like that. But you know, I've seen him do other things. I'm like,
everything about this feels incredibly authentic.
It does.
I think it's mad because Martin McDonagh is very, very on it. Like, he will not let people put in an or an R or put two words the other way around. Everything that they say is exactly as it is written in the script. It is there is no room for improvisation on even the most minuscule level. And the fact that a non-Irish native is able to write this kind of dialogue that feels so flowing, and it's just it's so lyrical. Just his scripts are just crazily good. I dream of someday being able to write something even a tenth of what this is, you know. But he gives that to actors who are able to just make it sing. And Barry Keoghan makes this sing. Like, he makes you laugh more than any other character, but he also just breaks your heart in two as well. I've seen him in Saltburn, I've seen him in Dunkirk. Well, I've seen him in The He was also in The Batman, briefly, kind of.
Can't really tell it's him.
And it's not that I never rated him. I think he's good, but it's just that I never was like, wow, this guy is what it's all about, you know. I think this is like, wow, he's great.
Like, a great script is all well and good, but it's useless without good actors. I have a lot of problems these days. I don't know why it's these days, but especially with TV, where you just feel like, oh, they're reading a script and they're doing it badly. They just think if I talk slowly, it's like I'm thinking about the line. And it just really, really bugs me. But I didn't have any of those problems. It feels completely natural and authentic.
Which is strange with, like, it's not super naturalistic dialogue, and part of it is the fact that it's set in the 20s, although it doesn't feel particularly old. There's nothing about this that feels like it couldn't necessarily be set now.
They show a gramophone, and that's like the only moment where you're like, okay, this is the era that this is, other than them mentioning the Civil War. And I like to think that there's still islands in Ireland that are like this, you know?
Yeah, well, this was actually shot across two islands in Ireland. It was shot in I'm going to butcher these pronunciations, I'm sure, but it's, I think, the Achill Islands, or the Archill Islands, I don't know, and the Aran Islands, Inishmere, to be exact. Okay. I actually went to a talk with Robbie Ryan, who did the cinematography. He also did Winter's Bone, if you've seen that. He's done loads of stuff, actually. I'm always seeing his name on stuff now. He's great. And he was talking about shooting on these islands and how they actually shot this whole thing with a really tiny crew just because it was such a faff to film over there, and there wasn't much accommodation and stuff like that. There were so many little things that you wouldn't necessarily think of, but it created a real intimate feeling on set, and I think that does come across.
Yeah.
The whole thing does feel very insular, very small. You keep seeing all of the same faces, when they go to church, it's all the same people that you see in the pub, it's all the same people you see at the local corner shop and stuff.
Obviously the crazy old woman shows up
The ghoul.
Yeah, the ghoul. I don't feel like the cinematography is trying to make itself obvious in a way, if you see what I mean. There's a few shots, but other than that, I was so just focused on the story. I wasn't even looking at the shots really that much.
Yeah, but I feel like that's sometimes what the best cinematography is. This film would not work as well as it does if you were noticing the construction of it.
Yeah.
What makes it work so well is that you're just lost in its reality sort of thing. When it started, I did think, wow, look, real color in a modern film. Like, at the start, you see all of the clothes blowing on the clothesline, and it just feels really like, color in a film. And this is shot digitally, it's, again, I think that was a limitation of shooting on the island. It was hard to get film on there or whatever,
Yeah.
But it looks great, and sometimes digital films can look great. And maybe the fact that it's digital is part of the reason it doesn't necessarily feel of the time. It has a modern sense to it. But I don't know. I think it looks really great.
Yeah, it might be because I was watching it on a old TV in 720p.
Wow, why were you doing that?
Because the TV is in 720p. I was watching the 4K scan, on a plasma.
But it holds up.
It still looks great. It's just I wasn't paying attention to the visuals really very much.
But that's good.
I'm just the only thing I'm thinking about the whole film is trying to analyze the characters' motivations, which I think is the sign of a good script, right?
Yeah, I think even just from my notes that I always write down pages of notes while I'm watching the film. Usually it's a lot of stuff about like, the construction of this, or that's a great effect, or things like that. And trying to analyze stuff, basically. This is basically just a whole list of just my favorite quotes from the film.
Okay.
I just wasn't thinking really about it in those terms. It does involve me as a film. I was not on the outside of this film. I'm completely within it, and that's it's so wonderful. As someone who makes films and is often thinking about the construction of a film, I often think of characters as tools for the plot. I don't necessarily care if someone dies or something like that, because I'm like, well, that makes the story better, and I'm very outside it, I suppose. Whereas I am completely in this, and I think of all of these characters as people, and that's really rare and lovely. It's just, I really, really love that.
I don't agree necessarily. I think when I was watching it, I was trying to think of like why things were happening, but it wasn't really in terms of like why things are moving the plot in a certain way. It's more like, why is this character important?
I'm not saying I'm intellectually checked out in that way. It's just that, I'm thinking about it in a different way.
I'm thinking of it almost like a story rather than a film.
Yeah, I suppose that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, like it could be a book or theatre production. I don't know. It could be.
Yeah, if a theatre production had these incredible landscapes.
And they could burn a building down on stage.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know if they've ever done that. Oh, I was going to say, one of my first thoughts when I started watching this was, I love how simple everyone acts. Maybe it's like that's like part of the timelessness.
Yeah.
It's like maybe we consider that everyone was a bit simpler back in the day. And I thought, it's quite nice. It's quite nice escapism. But as you go through the film, you start to feel like maybe the point is that it isn't nice being this simple. There's nothing there. People are living meaningless lives, achieving nothing, and it's kind of driving everyone crazy.
Yeah, there is definitely this sense of this repressed feeling. No one is talking about it, and everyone is aghast that someone would dare mention it, even though they're all feeling the same thing.
And even when Podrick touches Colin's like arm or something, and he's like, "What'd you do that for?"
Yes.
Even just one single touch is like too much for these people.
That heartbreaking scene where Siobhan is crying in bed. Podrick asks what's wrong, and she just says it's nothing's wrong, and instead of persisting with it, he just
turns over
he just turns over and goes to sleep, and they just both know that they're deeply, deeply unhappy on a very, very fundamental level. And yet, even brother and sister sleeping in the same room at 50 years old cannot communicate that to one another.
There's a kind of claustrophobia to the film, even though it's a big, wide open island. Like, they're just stuck with each other and no one else.
Yeah,
you know?
I think that all of the characters are feeling that claustrophobia. Siobhan and Colm start the film feeling that already. For them, it's the two different ways that they try to widen their surroundings. You know, in Colm, it's about cutting this one path off and then focusing on a different path, and for Siobhan it's about getting off the island. So they start feeling claustrophobic and then they try to make it bigger. Whereas Colin Farrell's Podrick, he feels fine about how it is and his world comes tumbling down. It becomes more claustrophobic. He starts to feel this island pressing down on him, but it's just not within his perception of the world that leaving is an option. The guys in the pub tell them that they were always a weird pairing, that Colm's more of a thinker and Podrick is just one of life's good guys.
When he clearly isn't.
But he is up until that point, you know, and there's that heartbreak of Dominic, Barry Keoghan's character, finding out Podrick has sent this fella packing for, in a brilliant scene, in a scene that does stick out like a sore thumb for how silly it is. He finds out that Colm's hanging out with a fellow musician, so he tells him that he's got to go back to the mainland because his daddy's been hit by a bread van.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and the fiddler's like, he's been hit by a bread van. He's like,
That's
yeah.
impossible.
It's not impossible. It happens all the time. He says, I know. That's how my mummy died. Which is so silly, you know. And he tells Dominic that he's told him this lie to get him off the island so that Colm won't have a friend. And Dominic is just so hurt by this. And he just says, I thought you were the nicest of them.
Yeah.
He's just so devastated by that realization that even someone who seems good and nice, and there's a lot of talk in this film about being nice and what is it to be nice, and at what point do you start prioritizing yourself over others and all of that, you know.
They say, is it better to be nice or to be remembered?
Yeah.
Which, you know, is a good point. If you're unhappy and you're nice, what are you getting?
I mean, I think that's why this film is so engaging, is because you can understand both sides so well. Colm's argument does make sense. And especially if you are an artist, I think there is a frustration that you feel, especially in the modern day, because we're all distracted by a million things, that it's hard to find the time to create. And it can feel frustrating sometimes when it's like, oh, you've made a social plan, you want to do this, you're going to meet up with someone, and you can sometimes just think, man, I could be painting, I could be writing music, I could be doing whatever else, you know. And there's so much that you have to do in life that you don't want to do. But then when you do the things that 2 weeks ago you thought you'd want to do, you get round to them and it's like, actually, I don't. I want to do something for myself, by myself. I want to create something. It's very easy to isolate yourself as an artist because you start to prioritize your art over people.
Yeah.
It's hard to separate what is actually more important at times. It is interesting, I think, as an artist to ask those questions.
I don't know. I think it's just an excuse, really. I mean, it's like he's almost become conscious in a way. It's like they're all living a life of just blissful ignorance. And then suddenly one day he's woken up. He had the forbidden fruit from the Garden of Eden. He's like, I don't want to do this. This is awful. I want to make something important. But in reality, he's an old fiddler.
Yeah,
What's he going to do?
But then his solution is to chop off his fingers to prove a point.
Which proves to me that he's not really trying to be remembered. He's suicidal.
But he's not completely suicidal because he didn't stay in the house when it burned. He did leave.
Yeah, true.
I think the whole thing is a parable, is an analogy for Irish conflict in general, especially the ending. I remember when I saw this in the cinema the first time around, it was just like, oh, it's just stopped. It didn't end. You know, I just felt like...
Yeah.
Quite unsatisfying, and I really enjoyed this film the first time around, but I remember not being super excited to watch it again because I just felt what it left me with was a sort of sense of dissatisfaction. You know, I wanted this to come to some big fruition, but this whole thing is set against the backdrop of the Irish Civil War. Throughout you can hear the sounds of bombs dropping on the mainland and stuff like that. And
no one ever has a side in this conflict.
Yeah,
everyone who mentions it is like, I don't know why they're fighting.
No one knows why they're fighting.
They can't remember which side's which or which side they support.
Exactly. And it's the same as the argument in the film. You know, like there is no real good, solid reason for why these two are arguing. It's just one day one of them decided that they didn't like him anymore. You know what I mean? And Irish conflict doesn't have a neat resolution, you know? This was already the Irish Civil War. You know, the guys that were fighting and killing each other every day in that war were fighting alongside one another just 2 years before, or a year before, or, you know, whatever, you know, against the English. And they saying is, you know, I miss when we were just fighting the English. It was easy to know what was going on. And, you know, going from this into all of the troubles, literally, you know, with the northern and southern split and the split from the UK and all of this. And so I liked it this time around, but it didn't have a proper resolution. It felt more in keeping with the themes of the film.
I didn't even really notice until the second time that it doesn't have a resolution. You know, it made sense to me. I was like, yeah, that's how you end it. I mean, it kind of does. I mean, it feels like a stalemate in a way. I don't think they're going to do anything. Podrick is claiming that it's not over and he won't rest until one of them's dead.
But he'll also look after his dog whenever he wants.
Yeah, that is the last line, right? Yeah. He says, "Thanks for looking after me, dog," and he goes, "Anytime." And then he walks off. Yeah, it just makes it seem like the whole conflict is completely meaningless.
Well, the whole conflict is completely meaningless.
Yeah.
Just give a shout out to all of the animal actors in this and how bloody brilliant they all are. Jenny, the miniature donkey, is top notch. That was her real name. And she's magical. She's absolutely fantastic. I've never cared so much about a donkey. Even the pony is just glorious.
I know.
And that dog is just got such a noble face.
I don't know how they got the dog to look scared and like try and take the shears away from him.
Yeah. I was going to say the most devastating death in this is Jenny the donkey. But actually, it's really... I don't usually care when people die in films, if I'm honest. I care much more about an animal dying.
Wow.
But it's really sad when Dominic dies, when Barry Keoghan dies. It really feels like Podrick was maybe his last hope. There's that devastating final scene between him and Siobhan where he finally plucks up the courage to ask her out. And the way he phrases it...
he stumbles over it.
Yeah, and then he finally says... It's not, you know, would you like to maybe go out for dinner sometime or you know, could I buy you a drink down the pub or something like that? Or even just something as blunt as, would you like to go out with me? The way he says is, I don't suppose a girl like you could ever fall in love with a boy like me, could you? Like, there's just something about that line, the way that it's phrased. And then when she turns him down, just no, I didn't think so. There goes that dream then. And just the way he can't ever quite meet her gaze again. And looking back and knowing what happens, you know that in that moment, that was his sort of last little... Is life worth living? Nah, I guess it's not. Because the truth is that he knows everyone on the island. Everyone knows everyone on the island. She was the only one that he was interested in.
Yeah.
No one's going to be interested in him. He's not going to be interested in anyone else. And his dad beats him up and touches him every night. And the one friend that he had... he's discovered isn't as nice as he thought. He just quietly in the background at the same time as Colin Farrell is losing everything, and Colin Farrell loses everything in this film. He loses his donkey and his sister in one day. He loses his best friend, obviously, at the start of the film, and then his one other friend by the end of the film. And yet, quietly in the background, there's Dominic losing it all as well in this sort of parallel kind of storyline. Everyone is living the same life on this island to one extent or another.
I think that's why it works so well, because you're just so engrossed in the main story, and then you find out, oh, it was Dominic who died, because the old ghoul says maybe 2 people will die.
Just to clarify, if for some reason you're watching or listening to this and you haven't seen the film, there's this old lady on the island who pops up way more than I remember, actually. She's in it quite a lot. And she's just often there in the background of scenes, or she will just say something, and she's a sort of a fortune teller, vaguely mystical, death-like figure, dressed in all dark robes, basically, and a pale face sticking out, and just says these creepy little things. And as you say, she says there'll be a death by the end of the month, maybe 2.
Yeah. So throughout the film, you're thinking, who's it going to be?
Yeah.
Obviously, you're thinking about the main characters, and it turns out to be Dominic, and it's almost like, none of us were thinking about him. Yeah. The characters in the film weren't thinking about him.
He seems so childish and innocent that you wouldn't consider him capable of that. Again, it's that suppressed thing. It's like, just because that's how he presents it doesn't mean that he doesn't have a tumultuous world of feeling inside him the same as everyone else.
And even in death, no one seems to realize he killed himself. It just gets swept aside.
Yeah.
Or if they do know, they don't want to say it.
Yeah.
It's not going to be remembered. It's going to go down in history as though he fell in the lake.
Yeah.
just like that. It's just sums up the rest of the story, I think.
Yeah, it's all just got that almost League of Gentlemen-esque sort of Royston Vasey, local town, nothing is said, but everything is known vibe to it.
Yes. Let's talk about the fingers. You remember the fingers? What do you think about those fingers? Nice fingers, aren't they?
They're good fingers. It's a very good effect for missing fingers.
Oh, and it's horrible seeing them not attached to the hand.
Man.
The hand with just loads of stumps. I hated that. I really hate that.
I don't know. There's something about the way that the fingers are just thrown at the door.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
I do like when he first announces that this is what he's going to do. He says, I'm going to chop off all my fingers. He says, you've left me no other options. And Podrick says, you've loads of options left open to you. How's fingers the first port of call?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah,
we were all thinking it.
I mean, and there's no good explanation. I think that's purely just for the audience.
But that's what I'm saying. I mean, the priest asks him multiple times, how's the despair? And he says, well, sometimes he says it's less than it was, and later on he says it's starting to come back.
Yeah,
that's just all it is.
None of this fixes his problem,
and that kind of proves what I was saying about, does he actually want to be remembered, or is he just saying that? You wouldn't cut off your fingers if you were trying to be remembered. I mean, maybe he read about Vincent van Gogh and he was like, oh, this is what a mad genius does. Maybe, but to me, he just sounds like he's desperate and he's lashing out at the world in a way.
I think sometimes people just want to make a statement without having much to say. And that's why podcasts exist.
Oh, God. Oh. It's like he knows his impact isn't going to transcend the island. He could write music that, is known the world over, but it's a lot easier just the whole island to be like, oh, you chopped your finger off. It's just like, I need attention in a way. But
it's that whole big fish in a small pond versus,
I need someone to notice me. Maybe a cry for help, something like that.
Yeah.
That he's not going to get any help, is he?
He's not going to get any
help. There's no one to help him.
Yeah, I definitely think that there's that sense of, if he truly wants what he says that he wants, why is he staying on Inisherin? Why doesn't he leave? Why does he do
scared.
What Siobhan does? Of course.
He knows there's nothing for him out there. Or maybe there is, but he's just, he's too scared. So is Podrick.
Yeah, I think this is a film about a lot of scared people.
Yeah.
What would you rate this film?
I remember when I first watched it, I thought, I don't want to watch this again. I really like it, but I don't want to watch it again. And then I did watch it again for this.
You did?
Yeah, I did, actually. And I still feel like that. Like, yeah, I wouldn't watch it again. But I would. Okay. I would. It's just quite bleak. But I really like what it is. I really like the writing. I really like the acting. Very well made. I'd still watch 3 Billboards in Bruges over it, but I'd give it at least an 8 out of 10, at least. Yeah, maybe a 9.
I agree. I would give it at least an 8 out of 10. I think I would give it an 8+.
Yeah, me too.
Which is the highest rating since Magnolia on this pod for me.
But I also would say, even if it's not my favorite Martin McDonagh, it could be his best script or best film. If someone argued that case, I could agree.
I think In Bruges and this, their scripts are so trimmed of all fat. Every line comes back in some way, in a brilliant way. Everything about it is poetic. I mean, this film is full of lines like, look, I found a stick with a hook on it. What's that for? It's for hooking things that are the length of the stick away.
Yeah.
That's Barry Keoghan who says that, and then his dead body is hooked in with that stick at the end.
Oh, God, I didn't notice that.
To quote George Lucas, it rhymes at every turn. It is very well constructed and yet defies obvious construction. Like, it doesn't make you notice its construction. Yes. It just is incredibly constructed, both in Bruges and this or that. And I'm sure 3 Billboards is, but it's been so long since I saw it that I can't comment on it with the same assurity.
Yeah.
But let's choose the next year. Let's do it live on air.
Let's do it. So I've got a random number generator.
Wow.
Not just any random generator.
That's great.
So we got the years. We always do 1950 to 2025. So I'm going to generate the...
Although maybe we should do to 2026, then we'll go out to the cinema and watch a new movie.
I'd like that. Let's do that. I thought it was 2025. That's why I... What's your guess for the year?
I think it's going to be 1974.
I'm thinking 1950.
Okay.
Ready? Generate. 1959.
Ooh, 1959. All right, that's an interesting one. All right. So it's going to be your turn to choose the film.
Yeah.
That's going to be my turn to choose the album. An interesting way
That's
round.
gonna
I
be
feel like
fun.
you'd pick a better album. Oh, well.
Yes, I would. But I'm not helping you.
No.
So it's your fault if you choose a bad album.
All right. Well, if you want to find out what we're going to be talking about, we will post it ahead of time on our socials, which are on screen if you're watching the video, and they're down in the description if you're listening to the audio. They're also down in the description if you're watching the video. But
I just want to say thank you for watching this far. It's been a long one. It's been
a
fun.
long one. Yeah.
And I hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed making it.
And thanks, George, for watching as well as being on it. I'm looking at you.
George. We love you, George. Thank you for your insight. It was great. If you enjoyed this, there'll be more coming up soon, hopefully.
And there's been more already.
So check out the more that we've done before.
And check out the more that we'll do next.
Bye-bye.